Welcome back to the She Shed. My name is Melissa and today's tutorial will be making this cushion. Did you see my last tutorial? It was a bubble stitch throw. I will leave the link down below. But this is the bubble stitch cushion to go with your bubble stitch throw. So this size here I've made as a medium and we are going to be doing a small today. So what do we need to get this project started? Well, of course, you'll need your cushion insert. So this one is the small insert. I got it from Lionbrand. It's the 35 centimeter one, and this is what we are going to be doing the tutorial on today. And then you will need your yarn. So we are using the super squishy acrylic premium blend yarn called Heartland from Lionbrand. You will need a ball of each color. So if you want to do your cushion as one color, obviously 2 balls of one color. If you are going to do the two-tone like I have here, so there's the grey on the back and the greeny grey on the front, then do your 2 colors. Now there are 8 different colors in this range of yarns, so mix and match and play around with that. But for this small cushion and even the medium cushion, which is the one I've already made up, only need 2 balls, 1 of each color. Then we'll also need to have our hooks. Now I always start off my chain in a hook size higher, and that will be an 8mm hook to do the chain. This makes the garment more even and it won't cinch in. And then for the body we are going to be using the 7mm hook. If you are interested in these hooks, I got them from Furls. I'm not affiliated or anything. I just absolutely love them and highly recommend them. They glide beautifully through any yarn. So love them, love them. You'll need your yarn needle, scissors, and then we're ready to go. So let's get this project started. So how you start off your cushion? Well, there is no set written pattern or anything like that because every cushion is different and you need to measure to the cushion. What we do is for a medium, you'll start off with 3 rows of half double crochet, row of bubble stitch, 5 rows bubble stitch, 5 rows bubble stitch, and then all the rows until you get to the width of your cushion. Then what we do, we turn it on the side and we work our way around, and you need to have a big flap, tie it in, and there we go. Now you can put fastenings if you like on there. You can do press studs, hooks, buttons. I've left these blank, but I have put buttons in the past. The medium one, the pattern here is slightly different so that your bubbles are more even, your rows of bubbles are more even. If I was doing a large, I would actually increase the amount of bubbles on the side, the amount of half double crochet rows on the side here to be 5, not 3. And the small, well, let's get started on that. We'll need to get your cushion out and keep it with you. And plump your cushion, get it all. Because you are measuring continuously next to your cushion. This time I'm going to do the light grey as the top with my bubble stitch pattern on it and the dark grey on the bottom, so that when the 2 cushions are together they contrast nicely. So we need to start our grey. So you found your end, do a slip knot, get your larger hook. So this is the 8mm, and chain. So what you're doing is chaining as many stitches as required to go over your cushion. Now that will be different depending on your cushion. So even a small cushion, I've bought some and they've never been the same amount of stitches. So, and then you just line it up, and you do want it tight. So you want a tight fit. You go both ways. So I'm going to do a couple more. So you'll see that this way it seems a bit big, but the other way it's actually okay. And as you can see, I've now made it too long. So you can see you need to play with it. I think that's pretty good now. So I'm not really stretching it, I'm just slightly stretching it because that's what's going to happen when you put your cushion in. Okay, I think that is good. So that ended up being 1, 2, 3, 30, 31. Now that is great because you need an odd number. So it doesn't matter how, whatever stitch you have, make sure that you end up with an odd number. The pattern doesn't work unless it's an odd number. So change your hook over. So now I'm on my 7mm. Chain 1. And we're going to be working on the back side of the stitch. So there's the front with the V, and the back, you turn it over and you'll see these loops. We're putting our stitches in the loops. So there's the stitch I just did. There's the next stitch, turn over, going into the back of that stitch. So yarn over, we're doing half double crochet, go into the back of that stitch, into that loop, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And we are just repeating that all the way down. So I'll leave you to finish that and I'll meet you at the end of this row. Okay, so we finished that row, so that's row 1. And I suggest at this time, check that you've got an odd number of stitches and grab your cushion and just double check that it's actually a nice fit on your cushion. Yep, cool, that works for me. So that is row 1, and we need to do 3 rows of half double crochet. So the next row, row 2, chain 1, turn your work, and straight into that first stitch we are half double crochet. And keep half double crochet all the way along till you finish row 2. Okay, so that's row 2 finished. At the end of the row, chain 1, turn your work, and then we're doing the 3rd row of half double crochet. Now we have finished our 3 rows. The next row is our bubble stitch row, the fun row. And so what we need to do for our 4th row is chain 1, turn your work. The first stitch of every bubble stitch row is a single crochet. So straight into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then grab your yarn and pull through the 2 loops on the hook. The next stitch is a bubble stitch. So yarn over, straight into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through. Grab your yarn and pull through the first 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, go back into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through the first 2 loops on the hook. And then for a 3rd time, yarn over, back into that same stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then grab your yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook. The next stitch is a single crochet. The next stitch is a bubble stitch. So yarn over, into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through the first 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, back into that same stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through the first 2 loops on the hook, and for the 3rd time, yarn over, into the stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, and grab your yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook. And the next stitch is a single crochet. Next stitch, bubble stitch. So going 1, 2, 3. Next stitch, single crochet. So it is the single crochet, there you go, there's your bubbles. It's the single crochet which enables the bubble to pop out. Okay, I will show you for the 4th time the bubble stitch again. So 1, 2, 3, and then a single crochet. Alright, so I'm going to leave you to finish off that row, and I'll meet you back towards the end. Last 2 stitches, and they should be, the second last one is your bubble stitch. 1, 2, 3, and then the last one should be a single crochet. Chain 1, and then turn your work. And look at all your beautiful bubbles. So the next 3 rows are going to be half double crochet. So yarn over, straight into that stitch, and straight into every stitch, all your half double crochets, and do 3 rows of that. And when you've done 3 rows, I will meet you back here. Now that you have finished your 3 rows of half double crochet, we're now doing another row of bubble stitch. So what we need to do is chain 1, turn your work, and remember your bubble stitch row always starts with a single crochet followed by your bubble stitch. So going in 1, 2, 3, and the 3rd one through all the loops on the hook, and then single crochet, then your bubble stitch. 1, going through the 2 loops, 2, going through the 2 loops, 3, going through all the loops on the hook, and then your single crochet, bubble stitch, single crochet. So continue doing your bubble stitch row to the end, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. Just on the last 2 stitches of that row, remember the second last stitch needs to be a bubble stitch. 2, 3, and the last stitch is always your single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work, and there we go, our second row of bubble stitch. Next 3 rows are going to be half double crochet followed by a row of bubble stitch. So I'm going to leave you to do your next 3 rows of half double crochet followed by a row of bubble stitch, and I will meet you back here once you have finished that. Alright, so now we have finished our 3 lots of bubbles with our 3 rows of half double crochet between those rows of bubble stitch. So for the rest of this, we are just going to be doing rows of half double crochet until it fits around our cushion. So grab your cushion, and what you are doing is from the seam, you can see the seam there, line the edge of your work to the seam, and now you are just half double crocheting rows all the way down until it gets to the other side of your cushion. So how many rows that will take, I don't know. It depends on the cushion and your tension. So you just need to keep going until you get to that seam on the other side, and then when you've got there, come back to me. Now I will let you know how many rows I did for me and the cushion I've got here, and I mean, if you're following along with me, you're more than welcome to do exactly the same amount of rows. And then I'll show you what we need to do next. Okay, so I have finished the grey panel that is going to be in the front of my cushion. And so I lay it over, and I make sure that it goes along that seam there and along that seam there. And that took 21 rows from the last row of bubble stitch, 21 rows. So if you are following along with me and you want to do exactly what I did, that's how many rows I did from there to there. Okay, so what we need to do now is tie that off because we're finished with the grey, and we're not changing on the side here. It's just come undone. We're not changing on the side here to the other colour. So normally I would do another colour, start here and then go around, but because we want this down the side, we need to start our next colour at the bottom here, because it's going to wrap around and come in and tuck into the top. So this becomes the top of your cushion and that is the bottom. So we start at the bottom, we crochet all the way up, do a flap, and the flap tucks in to the top here. Okay, so firstly what we need to do is finish this off, tie this off. So do a tail that is about 1.5 to 2 times as long as your cushion, because that's what you're going to sew in. Just pull your tail straight through. If you can grab hold of your tail, pull it through, and there we go, we have finished that bit. And so the next bit we need to do is start down the bottom, and it doesn't matter whether you do this as the bottom or you do it the other way around, that as the bottom. Now I think I'm going to do it the opposite way of my other cushion. So this cushion, I've got it that way. So I think for this little cushion, I'm going to turn it around and have the bubbles on this side. So that would be there. So I need to start at the bottom here. So let's get the other ball started, and I'll show you what we do next. Okay, so I've got my new yarn here, and I'm at the bottom of the one that I wanted to be at the bottom of, and I'm going to start this new yarn. Do a long tail here so I can sew it with that, and then start your yarn however you start your yarn, and then chain 1, turn your work, and what you will be doing is trying to evenly space your stitches all the way along the edge here. So you need to just look at where your rows are and just doing a half double crochet stitch all the way along and getting them as evenly as possible. Now you'll start to see the rows, so you can see that's a row, 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 row. Good idea is obviously putting a stitch at the top of each row, and you get into the rhythm of it and you will see a pattern, and you can start doing your stitches, but it's just making sure that you're being as even as possible. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to keep doing your stitches at the top of each row and trying to get it as even, and I'll meet you at the end and show you what we do next. There we go, and hopefully that looks very neat and even, and that's what you want. How many stitches you get doesn't matter as long as it looks neat and even. So for me it was 34 stitches I ended up with. And then what you want to do now is chain 1, turn your work, and you are just half double crocheting as many rows as it requires. Now what you were looking at is making sure that this panel goes all the way over your pillow, your cushion, and creates a flap that goes some way down. So when you look at this other cushion, so the flap tucks in to the top. So I did the back of this all the way around, and then I had a flap. So there's the flap, and I probably could have done this flap a lot longer. The cushion will change and move around and everything, so you want to make sure that you can get your flap in nice and tight and that it's not going to come out. There we go. Now it won't matter so much if you are wanting to do your flap with buttons. So what I normally do if I am doing buttons, so for example, I've got a whole heap of buttons here, lots and lots of little buttons, and I pick whatever colours are the that would suit. So you can see, like, there's a little button, and I would put about 5 or maybe 7. I like odd numbers in buttons. And dot them along. You just sew them up, and then they're so small that you don't need to do buttonholes. They just go straight through. So if that is something that you like to do, search online. I got these from eBay, and buy some buttons, or you can do little press studs along and just press stud it on, or hook and eye, however you want to fasten it, or just leave it like I've left it, and it'll just fold in. Alright, so let's get back to what we're doing here. So how many rows you do, as I said, is purely up to you. So once again, I'm going to keep half double crocheting for the next however many rows. I will let you know how many rows I end up doing when I get back. So I've done the back, and I ended up doing 45 rows. And now what I need to do is we've finished the grey, the dark grey, so we just snip it off, pull that through, and now what we need to do is sew up our cushion. Now obviously before you do all that, you have checked that it has fitted around your cushion comfortably, and that your end has tucked in nicely. Alright, so what you need to do is lay it so that the bubbles are facing up, and that will become inside for the moment, because you need to fold this in half. Make sure the seam, it's folded right on where you join the two colours, and then you are going to sew up the sides. Now you want the sewing to be on the inside, so that when you turn it inside out, you have a nice seam. So your bubbles are on the inside, you've folded it in half, so now this is going to be the inside when I turn it inside out, but it's facing out. And here's one of my long tails that I'm going to use to sew. I've got my needle, my yarn needle, and then all I simply do, I'm not the best sewer, I'm not very good at it at all, and then you're just sewing up. Just sewing up the side and keeping it nice and neat. And I just go over and sew along. So continue doing that, and I will meet you back here when you've got to the end of this section, sewing this section up. Okay, so we're finished sewing up one side. And what I do is come back on myself and just sew down, going back over. And hopefully that prevents it from coming undone. Snip off the end. And then, so that I know that this is exactly the same length across as the other side, so what I do is I go, okay, I finished here, run my finger along, and that's where I need to finish on the other side. So I put a stitch marker in there. So again, where I finished off was up here, and then I run, so you can see it's there, I run my finger along, and I know I need to finish here. Okay, and then I get the other side and I line that up, there's my other tail, and then I repeat the process and sew up this side. Alright, so I will leave you to finish sewing up that side and meet you back here when you've done that. I've done that side. You can remove the stitch marker. Do the same thing as sewing in the end. And once you've sewn that in, make sure that you have sewn in any other ends that are around, wherever they might be. Make sure it's right down in the corners. Get the flap, put the flap in, nice and neat. And there we have it. Let me take a photo of it and show you what it looks like. Here she is, looking particularly lovely. And let's see her with her sister. There we go with both of them. I think the contrast is awesome. I'm really happy with that. Very nice. Well guys, I hope you have enjoyed making your bubble stitch cushion, and hopefully you make this to go with your bubble stitch throw. I will leave the link to the details below. Like, subscribe and all that good stuff, and hopefully I'll see you here again back at the She Shed sometime very soon. Have a great day everyone.